Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll talk about the most common problems with Dracaena plants, 5 mistakes to avoid and how to fix them. If your Dracaena has brown tips, yellow leaves or just isn't growing as it should, you're probably making one of these 5 mistakes. But don't worry, I'll show you exactly how to fix them. Now let's start with the first and most common mistake. One of the biggest mistakes with Dracaena is watering the wrong way, and there are 3 key issues to avoid. The first mistake is overwatering. Dracaena hates sitting in wet soil, and when the roots stay too moist, they start to rot. This leads to yellowing leaves, weak stems, and eventually plant death. Unlike some houseplants, Dracaena actually prefers its soil to dry out almost completely between waterings. The best way to prevent overwatering is to wait until the soil is nearly dry before adding more water. Stick your finger into the soil, and if it feels slightly damp, wait a few more days. The second mistake is using tap water. Dracaena is sensitive to fluoride and chlorine, and over time these chemicals cause brown, crispy leaf tips. If possible, it's best to use filtered, distilled or rainwater to avoid chemical buildup. But if you're using tap water, let it sit in an open container or bottle for at least 24 hours. The third mistake is watering with cold water straight from the tap. Cold water shocks the roots, slowing growth and making the plant look weak. To avoid this, always use room temperature water. Letting tap water sit out not only removes chlorine, but also ensures the water warms up to a safe temperature before you use it. Dracaena is a slow-growing plant, so it doesn't need as much fertilizer as some other houseplants. But here is the problem: too much fertilizer can burn the roots, leading to yellowing leaves and brown, crispy tips. On the other hand, too little fertilizer can make the plant weak, pale and slow-growing. To keep it balanced, feed once a month during spring and summer, using a half-strength liquid fertilizer. That's enough to support healthy growth without overloading the plant. In fall and winter, stop fertilizing completely. Since Dracaena grows much slower in cooler months, extra fertilizer just builds up in the soil and can do more harm than good. If you start noticing crispy brown leaf tips, it could be a sign of salt buildup from over-fertilizing. In that case, flush the soil with distilled water to remove excess salt. The third mistake that many people don't consider is using the wrong pot size, the wrong soil, or repotting too often. Dracaena doesn't like change, and repotting too frequently can actually stress the plant out. It's best to repot only every 2 to 3 years or when the roots start pushing out of the pot. Another common issue is using a pot that's too deep. When this happens, water collects at the bottom, leading to root suffocation. If the soil is too heavy, it stays wet for too long, which increases the risk of root rot. Instead, Dracaena does best in wide, shallow pot rather than a deep one. It prefers stability over extra space, so there is no need to rush into repotting if the plant is still growing well. For the best drainage, use a light, well-aerated soil mix. A combination of potting soil, perlite and sand works great to keep the roots healthy and prevent excess moisture buildup. I know this might not sound like a real problem, but when dust accumulates on the leaves, it can actually cause issues. Dracaena has large leaves that collect dust very quickly, And over time, this blocks light absorption, slows down growth, and even attracts pests. The best way to clean your Dracaena is by giving it a gentle shower with lukewarm water every 2 months. This is the easiest way to remove dust from the entire plant and keep the leaves fresh. If showering isn't an option, you can simply wipe the leaves with a damp cloth every 2 to 3 weeks. For an extra protection, adding a drop of neem oil helps keep the leaves clean and prevents pests. I also have a homemade recipe for perfectly shiny and healthy leaves. If you want to see how I make it, I'll leave a link in the description. Dracaena can survive in average home humidity, but if the air is too dry, you will start to notice crispy brown tips and weak new leaves. This is especially common in winter, when indoor heating makes the air even drier, causing the plant to struggle. To keep your Dracaena healthy, try to maintain humidity levels above 40%. One simple way to do this is by placing a pebble tray with water under the pot. As the water evaporates, it naturally increases moisture around the plant. Another great method is grouping Dracaena with other plants to create a more humid environment. If you live in a particularly dry area, using a humidifier is the most effective way to maintain stable humidity levels, especially during colder months. One thing I don't recommend is misting. It might seem helpful, but it doesn't actually increase humidity enough to make a difference, and in some cases it can even lead to fungal issues. With the right humidity, your Dracaena will stay lush, vibrant and happy. Fixing these simple mistakes can make a huge difference in keeping your Dracaena healthy, lush and thriving. If you have any questions or tips of your own, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more plant care tips. Thanks for watching and happy growing!